Priyanka to present it. Okay.
Oh. Oh, actually, it's my headset.
No,
So, thank you. Is it on? Yeah, absolutely, All right. Probably we sit here. Can you guys hear me? Is this on? Yeah. All right. So I got to speak much louder than what I'm used to, I guess. Can you guys hear me in the back? Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the introduction. I want to take a quick poll of the room in terms of what mobile awareness and all that. How many of you here have a smartphone, like an Android, iOS, Windows Phone 7? Most, right? Everybody. Awesome. How many of you know how to make an app on it? A few. Have any of you actually developed an app other than your coursework? Okay, I see a couple of hands. Nice. I just want to get to know so that, based on that, how we can proceed. I want to give a quick introduction. I think that pretty much covered pretty much most of that. I'll definitely skip that. Just a quick introduction of Mokria. We're about 35 developers and designers. We're slightly different from a lot of the other organizations that are out there. We don't have any management, none of the bureaucracy, no middle management at all. We're all developers and designers. Everybody knows what to do. They're all remote as well. So that means we have a small office in Hyderabad here, but the employees are all over the world: France, Portugal, Serbia, Israel. You name a country, there are probably a few of our, one or two of the developers there. We make it work because all the developers are really passionate about what they do, and they're super self-motivated. So, no need to handhold any of them. So these are some of our clients. We were lucky enough to work with, Intel, Google, Twitter, and that's just a quick map of what we do. If you're interested and want to learn more about us, definitely check out that Quora link in Mixergy. All right, so I want to give a little bit of a history timeline, right? If you think about all the eras that we had in mid 90s to about late 90s, we had the PC revolution, right? So I remember myself in '97, building your own computer was the thing at the time. Laptops were expensive, obviously. So I went out, got a motherboard or the memory, RAM, and you'd assemble the whole thing together with those big bulky monitors. The CPU was the height of a table or a desk at the time. So at that time, the revolution was to have a PC in every home, right? So Microsoft, with Windows 8 at the time, Windows 95 and 98 at the time, wanted to have a PC in every home. That was kind of the PC revolution. And then we had the internet revolution where, it started off with that dial-up connection. I can still remember that noise where, when you started dial-up on a phone line, obviously your phone won't work, and then the speeds were just, you got to sit there and wait just to get connected. But the goal of, the tech industry at the time was to get every home or every PC connected through the internet, right? And then, after the 2000s, there were a lot of mobile at the time, but the entire mobile revolution started after, the introduction of the iPhone. Even before iPhone, Motorola, which was the inventor of cell phone itself, it had touch phones and stuff, but obviously it didn't take off. There's a lot to do with being at the right time at the right place, and that's what Apple knows to do, right? And so with mobile, everyone is connected, no matter where you are, right? It was limited to being at home, but with mobile and smartphones, everybody, wherever you are, you're connected, right? And then, so with mobile, we're actually probably in the middle of that entire revolution, right? I mean, It's been 7 years or so since the first iPhone came out, and we're kind of in the middle where everybody here has a smartphone, and we're in the very nascent stage of Internet of Things, right? This is where everything will be connected, not everyone, but everything will be connected. That's actually an article at International Business Times that says Facebook wants to not friend you, but everything in your home, your toaster, your refrigerator, your home security system, so that you can interact with it as well. So these are kind of the tech eras that we've been through, and I want to talk about the opportunities that were there before, and what are the opportunities for you guys that are coming out right now to the tech market. With mobile, there's a fundamental change, right? I mean, between the PC revolution and the internet revolution, and the mobile revolution that we're there right now, there's a huge difference. We're actually selling the technology to everybody on the planet, right? With PCs and stuff, it was one per home, and the software that we sell are mostly for corporations or the IT part of big companies, right? Not to everybody. But with mobile, you're putting this piece of technology in everybody's hand. So the difference is huge. So that is actually the inauguration of Pope in Vatican City in 2005. There's probably one guy who realized that he has a camera in his flip phone, right? And then in 2013, I mean, you can see the huge difference in the mobile adoption. Now be very dry, but I want to kind of give you an overview of what the opportunity that we have in terms of mobile, right? The number of people online between 95 and 2000. So remember 95 and 2000 where, I don't know if you guys remember, but that is when the big bubble, right? 2000 is when the bubble crashed. But all these web van, which used to deliver groceries on, through a website, all of these tech sites, tech websites were just growing up crazy. People were getting rich by selling their stocks, and so at that time, the number of people online went from 40 million to 400 million. So at which time it was humongous, right? I mean, that growth was huge, 10x times of what it was. And then if you see from 2000 to 2014, after it went down, and it took a while for the mobile, from 2008 to 2014, 3 billion people are now online. And then out of them, 2 billion people have a smartphone. That means you have an opportunity to influence 2 billion of these people, with your creative ideas, with your technology that you can put in their hands, right? And by 2020, the prediction is that another billion will be connected, and the newer connections are not going to be through a laptop or with a cable modem at home with an internet connection. It's going to be a lot easier where the infrastructure is not already placed to be connected with smartphone, right? Eventually, with a smartphone, you can, it'll be the powerhouse of everything in the home. I'll actually walk you through some of those examples. And then, the total world population is about 7 billion, and 4 billion of those 5 billion adults will have a smartphone by 2020, which is, pretty close. If you imagine the entire tech era, in 4 years, you'll have 4 billion people online. And just to compare with the PC era, by 2020, there'll only be 1.5 billion personal computers, out of which probably 600 to 700 million are for corporations. It'll take a while for the big corporations to move because they're really slow. And the rest of the 700 million are going to be, consumers like us. So it's definitely, if you think of it as a graph, it's definitely going to go down as we move forward. And when compared to a PC, the smartphone is much, much powerful, right? If you look at the statistics again, The iPhone 6 has 625 times more transistors than an entire Pentium computer in '95. And the number out there in the world are 25 times more that were sold in just one weekend, not the entire iPhones that we have right now, but 25 times more in just one weekend when compared to all of the PCs on the earth in 1995. So the growth has been, exponential. So everyone now will have a pocket computer. By everyone, I mean literally everyone, because if you think of the poorest of the nations in sub-Saharan African, 30% of them have electricity and water, but the prediction is that anywhere between 40 to 80% will have a mobile phone. You see in that picture, that home probably doesn't have an electricity or water connection, but obviously they have a mobile phone, and the uses that they use for agriculture, everything in their day-to-day life, mobile has changed their lives. So what is the opportunity, right? They're more powerful than PCs, not just in terms of gigahertz of RAM, but what they can do for us. They pretty much have all the information about us. Eventually, our phones are going to know more than are going to know about us more than the phone is. The phone is going to know more about us than ourselves. Should I just continue, or is it going to? All right. So when you talk about when you look in your phone, when you call somebody, when you text somebody, when you share something, it has all that information, right? So it knows who your friends are and how often you're calling whom. So it knows, it knows about all of that, and then it knows about where you're being, what kind of pictures you're taking, what you like. So it has more information about that. In terms of pictures, in 1999, I don't know if you guys have ever looked at a camera with a film, because nobody uses them anymore. There were 80 billion photos at that time. But in 2014, in just 1 year, people shared 800 billion photos, among friends, shared online and so on. That's only the number of pictures that they shared versus, the pictures that they have on their phones could be much, 10 times, 100 times more. We can't know that, right? So that's just to say that, the information that we have, the phones can collect so much information. It can know if you're walking, if you're running. It can even know if you're actually sleeping, right? Based on the time of the day versus, if it has all kinds of sensors, an accelerometer, a gyrometer. So everything in there will it'll start reading that information. And it'll know your payment information as well, how you pay. A lot of them will have Apple Pay versus, a Google Wallet or something like that. Just give me 1 minute. So when compared to developing a Windows application, creating apps for mobile phones is going to be that much bigger. It's not just like I said, the speed of these phones or the speed of the PCs, but in terms of all the other things that we touch in our lives, smartphones are going to make a difference. The biggest example is WhatsApp Messenger, right? It was 16 billion. 16 billion is reportedly, but Facebook acquired it for 16 billion. 20 billion global messages a day, but just in WhatsApp, there's 30 billion messages exchanged, and that's done just with 40 engineers. And if you can imagine the number of people that are involved in a text messaging app in all the mobile phones, there's 40 engineers that took to create this WhatsApp Messenger. So it's definitely a global opportunity. So as a parents to get you an iPhone? No, I'm just kidding. Don't go home and ask them and tell them some guy that came as a cell to get an iPhone because the opportunity is huge. So you need to be prepared, right? You need to be prepared when you're entering the workforce and make sure that you're ready. And the barrier to entry is so low. I mean, the tools that are out there for Android, it's obviously free. I mean, you can download it, and if you want to publish any number of apps, it's only one-time fee of about $25. With iOS and the new tvOS, it's slightly different. I mean, you need to have a Mac. There's just no way around it. I mean, just don't mess with trying to partition your Windows and trying to hack it into a Mac or anything like that. I mean, it's just not worth it. The Mac Minis and stuff are also affordable. I mean, especially if there are opportunities at your college with getting access to that, definitely grab those opportunities. Those are just some links that you should just go develop. And this is definitely a proud moment for me because my 8-year-old son has an app in Android Play. If he can do it, obviously, I mean, you guys can all do it. So it's actually very amazing how kids in the US are introduced to software coding and development very early on. He is in 3rd grade right now, and my daughter is in 2nd grade, and both of them are already being introduced to coding. You can go to a website called code.org, and the language there is very easy for them to understand. It's more of the language is called Scratch. It's from MIT. They basically drag and drop these if conditions and stuff, and it's very intuitive for them. They don't know that this is actually programming. I mean, they don't introduce them as variables, if loops, and like that. But if you drag and drop it, and then you can see that and then you drag and drop a sprite, and then you run it, you'll see that something is happening. It's very logical to do to the next step and say, oh, I want to do this 10 times, and then there's a value there to enter 10. So it's pretty easy. I mean, and this is an example of that. I want to give a little bit detailed introduction with Xcode. I don't know how we're doing on time. No, I can do it here. How long do we have? That's fine. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I definitely want to leave some time at the end so that you guys can ask questions. Just want to give a quick introduction to iOS development. It's just to give you guys that feeling of it's not hard at all. You should definitely all give it a try. With Xcode is obviously the IDE for Apple. Anything you want to develop on iOS, it's like Android Studio or Eclipse that some of you might be aware of. Xcode is that, and they have a really good feature called Playground with Xcode where you can type in something and see the output right away, so that you don't have to create an entire Hello World application to get started. You can start typing one line, and then you can play with it. So just like any other programming languages, so actually let me give you a precursor of Objective-C. Objective-C is the programming language for OS X that has been for a long time, and then when iOS came about, they started using Objective-C. And if you have an introduction to Java and you go see Objective-C, you'll get nightmares for a few days based on the syntax that you see. It has an unnecessary amount of brackets and syntax things that you don't need. And Swift is really good. I mean, Swift is the new programming language that they introduced for all the iOS products. They've taken all the learnings from the good programming languages and put them into one programming language, and that'll be Swift. As you can see there, oh, the wrong one. Now it's just somewhere. Those are how you declare a variable, right? Let A, and that's it. You don't need to say if it's an int, if it's a string. It'll, based on the value that you assign, it's automatically going to think, it'll typecast it into what it is. And then for, just like any other class, you create a class. The constructor of it is called init. You initialize it. You have to make sure that all the variables, all the class variables, you will have to initialize in a value in the init. Otherwise, it won't compile. So that is slightly different from what we have in, let's say, Java, where you can start declaring, you can initialize. Some variables are never initialized if it's a bad program. So what do you have? So this simple app actually helps you create calculate a tip when you go to a restaurant. If you want to leave 15%, 18%, or 20%, I mean that's just about you can see there about 30 lines of code, and it's so simple. Just like any other programming language, you have a function because Apple wants to do something different. Instead of putting the return type next to the public void kind of stuff, they'll put it at the end. So the double here is the return type. The for loops are pretty similar to the Java 5 or version 6, where they introduced a bunch of new syntax. So that this is pretty much it. I mean, this is another function which returns a hash table. The integer is a key. The double is I'm assuming all of you have a basic programming language, right? Okay, good. I see. Not a head nodding. So that's basically a hash table. It will return a calculated value of the tip for the number of percentages, and then it'll do it. So you'll actually see the next to the line, anything that outputs. So when it says 3 times, that's basically how many times that for loop executes and so on. And basically, so this playground will let you do, learn to mess with all the UI that comes with it, and all those things. So this is really useful, but that's just the beginning, right? I just want to give you guys a quick overview of another app that that we have developed internally. This is called Moods. Moods is an app for people that have bipolar disorder. They have these raging emotions throughout the day that come and go. And this is an app to help those people to keep track of it. And there are a lot of users with just by keeping track of it, you have enough data on how you're feeling on certain days, what happened during those days. You can add a note in there. You can take those reports, go to your doctor, and it helps him get much better information as well. So this is an app for that. I'll go through maybe a couple of things here. So let's say. So a storyboard is something like a drag and drop utility tool where you create what you want, buttons, text fields, all that kind of stuff. And then these are called segues, where you want to say when something happens in the screen, where do you want to go to the next one, right? So the tools with Apple are really intuitive. I've done both Android and iOS development. With Android, it has gotten a lot better right now, but at the initial stages, with fragmentation, with so many devices, with Android, it was just a nightmare. Even as an example, in my company, I ended up being an Android developer instead of an iOS developer, because a lot of our developers didn't want it to do Android initially, and I got stuck with it. But both of them are right now the opportunities are definitely good, but the tool set with Xcode is really easy. So this is actually, if I run this one, just like the Android app, just like the Android environment, it'll actually start the emulators. This is actually an Apple Watch extension as well. So you get an emulator of the Apple Watch, and there and the phone as well. So this is a pretty simple, useful app that says a few times in the day, based on its own artificial intelligence, it'll ask you, how do you feel, and then you just select, I'm doing okay right now. And then, you know, do you want to add a little bit more deets or, you know, more details basically? And then you can select some of them and say continue. So that logs it, right? So developing an app is easy, but the impact it has on the lives of so many people that need it is you know, you can't put a price on that, right? So I'm not sure if it makes sense to go any deeper with some of the classes in there, but let's go back to presentation. All right. So as a student, what should you do, right? You should definitely build stuff. This is an opportunity. So one of the reasons, actually, there are two reasons why I wanted to do this, right? One is I want to be among the engineering students and, you know, kind of relive those memories, enter an engineering college again and see how it looks. The other is you know, when we entered the market, you know, we didn't, you know, all I did was just Java programming and nothing else, and that too just because we had to do one project, right? It wasn't the passion that, you know, that you should have to build stuff. It's just, you know, I just want to get some coursework done and that's it. So that definitely is not the right attitude, you know. And you know, we didn't have anybody that came and said, you know, this is what's happening out there. Kids that are 8-year-old are actually developers in our company have been coding since 9-10 years old. You know, they initially start with web pages, which are, you know, pretty easy to do, some websites, a little bit of web apps, and then they get into a lot of the programming. But you know, that's why you know, that is one of the reasons I wanted to at least give that kind of information to you, for you to say, you know, go out there, do stuff on your own, and you know, build things. And the barrier to entry is so low right now. You don't need, you know, in '99 and, you know, during that big boom, or even about 7-8 years ago, right? The barrier to entry was really high. If you had an idea and you want to start a company, you had to raise millions of dollars. You need to create this whole server farm. You know, you need to hire 10, 15 developers, and then go and build out, you know, this cool idea that you have, and then you go and try it out in the customers, and then, you know, you find out that there's nobody that wants it or likes it, right? So that's how things were done before. And right now, even to raise any money to start a company, unless you have hundreds of thousands of users, or you know, you cannot raise money. And you know, the right thing is you should not raise money, right? Because you're basically selling, and then they'll start dictating more of the terms rather than yourself. And the resources are, you know, unlimited right now online. I mean, there's so many free online tutorials to get started on anything. I mean, if you're interested in, I know I'm biased towards mobile, but you know, if you're interested in Python or Ruby on Rails or any of the other web programming languages, I mean, the kind of stuff, you know, the kind of stuff is definitely similar. Free online tutorials, Stack Overflow. How many of you have heard about Stack Overflow? Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You know, anything, you know, not just students, but you know, anything with professionals also, anything that they want to see, you know, the first go to Stack Overflow and make sure that there's not a solution. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. GitHub is another tool. Source control, in terms of source control for the code, everybody should be aware of GitHub. And then parse.com is a really, really good utility, because most of the mobile apps will need some kind of backend, right? You need something to store on your server, user profiles, you know, data that you collect, anything needs to be on the server. But parse.com gives you all that for almost free. I mean, the limits are like, you know, 1 million, or, you know, in the millions of messages, it's free. I mean, you can use it till you get, you know, hundreds of thousands of users and are collecting all that data. I mean, by that time, you'll definitely be in a good position to, you know, either raise money or get some revenues for your product. So parse.com is another one. And Stanford University, the courses that are taught in Stanford with mobile apps and stuff, if you go to itunes.stanford.edu, they're all free there. you can just listen to the videos. They'll actually walk you through step by step of the actual classes that are happening there. They actually record it and then put it out on the web, and they're all free. Oh, let's go into quick. All right. So, like I was saying before, the way you build is also very important. Not just once you get your energy and you're enthusiastic about what you want to build. Make sure you do it the right way. There are a couple of concepts that have been coming up in the last few years called customer development and lean startup. And if you think about it now, it all makes sense, because before you build something, you want to make sure that somebody actually needs it, right? And people don't used to do that. Now it doesn't make any sense why they didn't do it, but that's how it is right now. So customer development is about a process called it's basically making sure that you're building something that somebody wants. You start with a minimum viable product. It's called MVP, or a minimum viable product. So don't go out and build everything that you have imagined, right? Cut down all the features that are not needed. Make sure that you're building something very minimum, and that means somebody wants to use it. Go test it out with users. That's what lean startup does, or teaches you. Create a very small product, go out there, test it, get the feedback from the customers, and then start adding those features and start building that app from there. I want to inspire you guys with some of these success stories, right? Uber, most of you know, I know it's pretty popular here as well. Who thought you could actually disrupt the entire taxi industry, at least in the US, right? I mean, taxis are nowhere related to technology. You hail them and then you get on a ride, you pay them, and you're done, right? But that's what Uber has done, and with mobile, right? It's completely mobile. You got to open your mobile, check out where an Uber is, call it, and it'll come. And it makes so much sense. I mean, it cuts down all the pain points of getting a taxi and going to somewhere that you want to go, right? Snapchat, these are some of the apps that are in. These are called the unicorns in Silicon Valley, that have a valuation of at least $1 billion. Slack is basically like Yahoo chat rooms. I think you guys are too young to know about Yahoo chat rooms. It used to be a thing in the late 90s to the early 2000s, where you just go online, sign into Yahoo, and then there's chat rooms that are available publicly. And that, even though it no longer exists, that's what made the entire globe so small, because you could actually speak to someone on the other side of the world, not knowing who they were, and just randomly make friends with somebody in Serbia or somewhere there. So Slack is something similar to that, but it's for enterprises. We in Nokia use that heavily. When you get a project, you basically create a channel for it, and everything that's related to that channel is happening in there. You have a bunch of projects that are happening. You go in that Slack channel, and then you have all the information that's happening there, who is working on what, and all that kind of information. And that's what enables all the remote team structure that we have right now. And just along that note, as a side point, this is a trend that's happening a lot in the US. There is a lot of freelance developers. That means you don't want to be tied down to a single corporation anymore. You want to set your own timings. You want to set your own rate, in terms of how much you want to charge the client. And you want to set your own work hours and work weeks. That means, they want to work for 10 months, take off the 2 months, and, do what they like to do, right? So that freelancing is growing a lot. A lot of developers are quitting their, cushy 9-to-5 jobs and just starting on their own. But to do that, you have to be really good, right? I mean, anywhere you get a client project, they'll obviously be prodding into, what is the latest technologies. You need to know what they are, and be very familiar with that as well. Slack, and then WhatsApp, obviously, you guys all know. Again, don't go home and Ask your parents to not wake you up till 10 a.m. because some guy that, start to, he knows something, told you to be lazy. But I'm going to say it, be lazy. Laziness is the root cause of all innovation. I just made that up, but if you think about it, right, wheels are the biggest innovation since, early man. And if he wasn't lazy, he would still be dragging something around instead of making those wheels to move stuff around, right? He wanted his life to be better and not, do the work that has to be done in a more, you don't want to put more effort than that's needed. Think about anything in any innovation, being lazy is the cause of it. Just give an example, right? I mean, why do you invent, automobiles? Because you want to be lazy, you want to sit and drive instead of walking where you want to go, right? Again, laziness. If you want to go away and say, why is iPhone interface so much better? Because you want to be lazy and you don't want to read the manual of a phone and figure out how it is. It's so intuitive that as soon as you open it, anybody can just start looking into it and know what to do, right? So that's definitely what you should do. And in addition to the laziness that we have, I want to give kind of a picture of what it's going to look in the next few years. It could be 5, 10, 15 years, but it's going to get here. So I'll run you through a day, of a typical professional that's going to wake up, go to office, and do stuff. So there are apps even right now that will actually track your sleep. That means you either wear a wristband, or there are even apps that actually put under your pillow, and the number of times that you move, it's actually keeping track of all of that, and it'll actually calculate by morning how well you slept, and it'll actually ring your alarm, between a range. You said, I want to wake up between 6 and 7, and then you say that to the app, and then it'll actually figure out, is 6:30 a better time? You get the extra 10 minutes. You're going to be that much more energetic that day, then it's going to do that, right? So starting from there, it's going to track your sleep, and then it is going to wake you up. And then as soon as it wakes you up, you shouldn't have to go and make your coffee or tea or whatever it is. The phone is going to say, hey, the alarm, because you're going to wake up and right? As soon as you switch off the alarm, it knows that you're up. It's going to communicate to your coffee machine, right? And then it'll start stirring up, your favorite coffee based on the day. You want to have something over the weekend. You don't have to think and make all those decisions. Here's a side note on Mark Zuckerberg, right? You've probably never seen him other than, wearing other than, the gray t-shirt and the jeans, and that's it. That's, there was an interview and somebody asked, do you have more than one pair of, that shirt? And he said, yes. And, why do you wear the same thing every day? Because you don't want to think, again, laziness, right? I mean, you don't want to think what you want to wear on that day. Spend a few more minutes, he could instead be influencing, billions of people around the world. So that's why, he doesn't want to be, making that decision. So this is, I mean, all these things are going to make your life so much easier and make you so much lazier, right? And then once your coffee is ready, the TV is already running. And when I say news, it's not the news of what this politician or that politician had to say, but the news for you, right? How it pertains to you. And that's what Facebook does too. I mean, a news feed for it is, if somebody somewhere had a birthday or some celebration, you don't care. You is somebody that your friends and family have a birthday, or there's an event. That's the news for you. So a smart TV is going to turn on, and it's going to collect all the information for you. You don't want to know, if you want to know about the weather, I don't care if it is 10 degrees, 20 degrees, or 30 degrees, right? That number doesn't mean much to me. What it's going to figure out is, what do you want to wear that day? You need a jacket. Is it going to rain, right? If it's raining, so it'll actually show you. Make sure you take an umbrella or a rain jacket today, because it's going to rain, sometime in the day. You don't need to process all that information. It's actually going to give that to you, right? If it's weather and traffic, right? I mean, I don't want to hear, So there's a lot of traffic news typically in the US, and I don't want to hear traffic about every other street that I'm not going to use. What's news for me is what's happening on the way from my home to my workplace, right? So it's going to just say that because it knows where your workplace is, where your home is. It's going to make a route there and make sure that there's no traffic incidents in there. You know, anything like that, it's actually going to be news for you rather than just news. And once you're heading out of your home, so that Nest is actually, I don't know, have you heard about Nest, which is a thermostat? All right. So Nest is a smart thermostat. It's pretty popular. It was actually acquired by Google a couple of years ago for, again, $3 billion. And it's just a thermostat. It just controls the temperature of your house. But it's a smart thermostat. It actually knows the habits of you and your entire family in your home, and it's going to adjust. After the first few days, it's going to adjust itself to say, as soon as it detects some presence, it's going to either increase or decrease to a temperature that's comfortable for you, rather than you going in there and adjusting that temperature. So that's actually, I mean, this is all a little bit futuristic, but there are already products that are out there that are popular as well. So Nest is one of that, and it's as soon as you're away, your mobile phone is going to say to your Nest thermostat that I'm leaving, and then it's actually going to adjust and make temperature in the house that's energy efficient. And then a smart lock in the door. There are actually about 5 or 6 smart locks that are that you can operate with your phone. The most popular one is called August. So as soon as you're out of the home and just close the door behind you, you don't actually have to lock it or anything. The phone is going to say, okay, it's going to process so much information. If it's a weekday, what time of the day is it? So that means he's definitely heading out to work, right? And then it's going to lock it for you. And then the security system for your home is going to get switched on automatically. Actually, this Dragonfly is still in the making. The design for it is something that we did at Mokria. So this is the typical security systems in a home have either fire or some kind of smoke detection or presence detection. That means when your security system is on inside the home and somebody enters, it's going to sound alarms, and that's what right now the security systems are. But this one has a hub inside the home, and there's so many sensors throughout your home, and all this information is being collected to the hub, and the hub is the one that makes these decisions. So let's say there's a smoke in that corner of your home in the 3rd bedroom somewhere, and it's going to detect that, and it's going to switch off all the other things. If there are doors that are closed, it's going to lock them so that the fire is contained in that part of the house. If there are people around you, it's going to set the alarm. So it's a much better, smarter security system that will adapt to your home. So as soon as you're away, your commute, right? So self-driving cars are definitely going to be, I think personally, I think they're going to be sooner than later because the technology is already there. There's actually a car coming out next year it's a Cadillac car that's coming out next year that has a super cruise mode. So when you're on the freeways, you can set a cruise mode, and then it controls the speed, it keeps the speed at the same level. The car that's going to come next year will have super cruise, which is once you're on a freeway, you can set that super cruise and you don't have to, you can let go of the steering. That means it's actually going to, again, process all the information around you, sense the cars in front of you, next to you. It has the GPS data on the road that you're going to. You obviously have a destination, and then, on the freeway, you can just relax and do what you want to do and, not hold the steering and look at the road. So that's something that's coming next year. And the cars are going to look something like this, right? Uber is in the plans of buying 500,000 self-driving cars as soon as it's available. So imagine with that, nobody needs to own a car in the US or anywhere else in the world. As soon as it's 8 a.m. and it's time to go to work, a self-driving car is going to come to the to the doorstep of your home. It'll probably wait there for a few minutes, which will be your regular time, and then you get in there, and it's it's going to be a subscription basis. let's say $200 per month, and that includes all the expenses of your car, right? You don't need to own it, you don't need to drive it, you don't need to maintain it, no gas, because, if it buys something like a Tesla car, which is all electric, then, the maintenance for them is going to be much more profitable. So that's, and imagine the kind of things that you can do inside a car if you're not driving them, right? I mean, it took me an hour and a half here. Obviously, I didn't drive, but I could be doing so many things if I'm connected, right? I mean, I could work, I could, spend my time much more efficiently. So that's, that's something, that's a model that'll come. I mean, so you could be thinking about, okay, he's commuting for an hour and a half. What can we, as technologists, what can we enable to make that person's life much easier? Sell something there that can make them easier. And then at work, my prediction, mostly because I'm mobile, more passionate about mobile, is even at workplaces, the 600 million PCs that are eventually going to go away 5 years later, because your phone is going to be powerful enough that all you need is a monitor and a keyboard when you go to your work. You dock it as soon as you go in, and that's your computer. I mean, you have a big screen, you have all the apps that are out there. You can develop, you can code. Xcode is going to have an app that will run on your mobile phone. I mean, it makes total sense, right? Why, if you're developing apps for that phone, why can't you make an app that will actually enable you to create apps on the phone itself? So that's how you're going to the future of work is going to look like. And some of the things actually that Google solely is something that I'm actually working on right now. Even with the touch screens that we have, actually, if you look at Google for Project Soli, there's a video out there that shows you how to do gestures without actually touching a screen. So there's a radar chip that actually detects the motion of your hand. So so this is more targeted for a phone, for a watch. The screen size, the screen real estate on it is very small. So, those pinching and zooming that you want to do with pictures or maps, it's going to be really hard, right? So you're going to be doing it in the air without actually touching the screen. So you have the surface area of, a lot bigger surface area around that watch. And so you can do gestures there. And so, any of those, while developing the apps on your mobile phone or any of that, it's going to be much more easier. And again, being remote, I mean, like I said, freelancing and being able to work from anywhere because, you're connected wherever you go. You can be working from any place like that. Eventually it's going to be where these meetings are not going to be, in person. Again, that's actually a show in CNN where they did a hologram of somebody else. So the lady that's there is not actually present there. It's actually a hologram from somewhere else in a remote TV station, and it'll look like, she's in front of you. And then a lot of the work that you do is going to be automated. And to be lazy, with AI, a lot of artificial intelligence is going to be used. Tesla and I believe Facebook, they just announced another consortium for open AI, open artificial intelligence. So that's definitely going to be a big piece of the future. There are a couple of products right now. One is called Clara and the other is called Amy. We actually use Clara. It's for scheduling meetings. So we get these inbound calls from a lot of these different companies that says, we want to talk to you. We need an app. We want to talk to you. Can you schedule a time for us? And that's again a chore. I'm going to be lazy and say, I don't want to do that scheduling. I mean, the computer knows my calendar. It should be able to, perfectly sync his calendar is and my calendar is, and, figure out a time that works for both of us because, I've set my working hours. It knows it. Why shouldn't the computer do it for me, right? Those are the kind of questions we should be asking to solve these problems. And Clara is that, is a product that does it. So what we do is in the email itself, we say, Clara, can you schedule something that, this week, next week? And that's all. It picks up that from that, natural language processing. It picks up that text and actually communicates with the other person and says, and it'll look like a person. I mean, it won't look like some robot is, sending out these emails. Actually, it's funny, after it's scheduled in a lot of these conference calls, we get asked, is Clara going to join you? Clara is actually just an artificial intelligence tool that that helps you enable these meetings and make your life easy. Not just work, right? I mean, at the end of the day, eating, playing. So that product at the top left is from Y Combinator. Y Combinator is a startup incubator that helps you start these new companies and stuff. That's actually a sandwich maker. So when you want to make a sandwich, when a person does it, there are so many chances of coming out, in different tastes. But you go to a specific place because you like that, you like the sandwich that's coming out of that place, and the chef might have changed and the taste is going to change. But if it's a machine, it's going to do the exact same thing every time. There's no way that the taste is going to change because it's going to put the exact amount of ingredients, the exact, it's going to bake the bread exactly like it's supposed to. So that's something that will come. And then connected cars, that's another AT&T product. So for AT&T is a mobile carrier in the US, and for them everything is around SIM based. They want to put a SIM in your watch, in your bracelet, everywhere, and that way you can leave your mobile phone at home, and when you're outside, and you don't have your mobile phone, you're still connected with all your SIMs. So when you get a phone call, your watch is going to ring, your car is going to ring, everything is going to ring, and wherever you are near to that secondary device, you can access to it, and all of these devices are synced. So that product is kind of in their labs, and it'll eventually come out. Amazon drones is another thing. We'll pretty soon, see that kind of science fiction kind of skies where all these drones are flying with these small little packages. Imagine the number of flights that we're seeing right now, and imagine all the traffic with these drones. And they're pretty close to being FCC approved in the United States for drone deliveries. And then this is a fitness suit. It's a T-shirt embedded with a lot of sensors. The short and the shirt is enabled with the sensors, and it will actually track all your fitness, the muscles, it'll help you guide with, and that goggles as well from Intel. There's headphones that come into your ears, and with those goggles, if you're running and doing your fitness, it's actually tracking with the sensors, and it'll guide you. There's a coaching artificial intelligence in there that'll say you need to work out for a few more minutes, or you've done enough with your cardio and all those things. It's actually going to guide you on how to do. So just to summarize, I mean, definitely be prepared when you step out of your college, when you step into the workforce. Be lazy, build and innovate, definitely in the right way. So these apps, I mean, don't just think about just creating an app that, like a utility app, or, those are good for you to start with, but think about building a product that's going to change your lives, right? I apologize, I didn't introduce one of my colleagues here. Anjali, she was founding member of Mokria about 5 years ago. She's moved on and she's doing her own thing right now. She is into getting the business cards. So, these business cards, I just got one, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this, right? Maybe put it somewhere, but when I'm out somewhere and I want to know the information of this, I'll not have it in handy. But a mobile phone is something that you'll always carry with you, right? So she's actually building an app. Do you want to give a quick introduction of that?
As you mentioned, my name is Anjali, and as PRANIL told all the things, I'm sure you guys have paid attention, but I'm going to just quickly recap what we have all invested in that. That is what we actually did on week. So I started. Will this work? Okay, thanks. So I started the same way. I did my engineering, and as he said, I just coded something. In my final year, I had a project which required a little bit of going into the theory and saying that, okay, I worked on hybrid electric projects. So I'm like, generating power from already existing natural stuff instead of digging coal and doing it. So very much interested because it's available. I'm going to see the difference. But how would I make it prediction? How would I make it appealing? How would I have a concrete ground saying that put this much money or put this much of effort and see the results? So I started writing a simulation code for it. I'm actually background of mechanical engineering, but I started looking into it and going, okay, yeah, I have all this theory of mechanically how to convert the power and all those things, but how is it going to really help me? Then I started looking into simulation. Okay, simulation is coding again, right? You code and see all these things and click, that makes sense. Okay, I need to modify this much to get this much output. So when I did that, I was really happy. And I said, yeah, there are materials around here. All we need to do is just think about and implement it. In that way, I started working same way, the computers. Then I went on to the mobile world. I worked on Windows 3, Palm Pilot. I'm sure these things you kids must not have not looked into it yet, but started that how. And last year I started working on watches and IoTs and all these things. So there's a technology. How can I use it in everyday life? So I go to a lot of conferences and I talk and I do all these things and I meet with important people. At the end of the day, I come with this many cards. That's how I started thinking, okay, this is a product. This is a real pain point for me. I have this many people. I have 10 Vijay. Which Vijay is connected to what? Yeah, of course I have his card, but this Vijay is a designer, okay, and I wanted to follow him in 3 days and connect with him and see if he's interested in developing a design for my product. And another Vijay is a sales guy. I want him to sell my product. How would I connect these links? How would I connect these dots? I remember the day, but now I flew from US. So I go back in 20 days and now I will be relying on my brain to remember, okay, this is what happened. Like, and how does he look? Nothing rings my bell. It's very important to me. That's why I have this card. To somehow get back to those guys or just forget this. So then I started thinking, okay, we have phones. In these days, how many, you Uber and all these things, you don't even need to take out cash from your pocket. All you do is just use your phone to press and everything is automatic. Why are we still taking our business cards out? This can be better managed, right? So then I started thinking and I developed a product. It's called Trail. I transfer, and people like business cards because they connect, they feel important that they need to be staying in touch, and then they give the card. There are so many apps out there, like WhatsApp. You can just Google that person and connect with them, the Facebook and all. But still, how do you know that those are not bots? How do you know that those are real connections you want to make? How do you know that those are authentically genuine supporters of what they say or genuine agenda makers of what they are? You can, let's say, somebody can just go and say, hey, Mark, will you believe him? No, right? Because you know who's Mark Zuckerberg and you know who that person is. It doesn't resemble and it doesn't have the context of that. So with the cards also online, you can come across so many bots and so much of stuff which you can think that it is real, but it's not real. So I wanted to develop a product which would be doing all this but digital. I don't want to carry it. For that purpose, let me give you a demo. So I have it. Oh, well, I don't have an instrument, but still it should be able to work. But I transfer data over sound, right? Android and iOS, these are two different platforms. There are it's technical, but have you guys heard about Wi-Fi